Here's an interesting article that I'm interested in this bacteria right here, and they label it as F. Prausnitzii, I believe. Don't quote me on that. So the article's about this, and this is the organism they identified with people with, serious gastrointestinal disorders. They found it in the chronic fatigue. That's why I was interested in it. But they also found low levels in other problems. I think it was Crohn's disease, colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, those kind of things. And the background on it is that it's a difficult. You can't culture the product. It's not found in any probiotics. So it has to be manufactured in the body, and I've been reading a lot about these different plant fibers that are going to help it. But anyhow, I had an interest in this article because they're talking about this fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT, which is gaining traction. It's been around for a while. The FDA doesn't allow for FMT for people, just random people, or people. You have to have this C. difficile. This I'm not going to pronounce that either. But they know it as C. diff or C. difficile. Typically, it's a hospital-acquired infection, and it's a bacteria gets into the gut, and they have to usually use pretty strong antibiotics, but some people don't respond to the antibiotics. So the FDA did approve FMT for the treatment of C. diff, and so this article is going on, and they did an investigation on it. They took stool samples from it, and by the way, I've always been very curious as to, like, well, if FMTs work, and a lot of people do, then what is the organism that's being donated that makes it work, and why haven't they isolated that and just given some type of treatment besides going to the transplant issue? There's a number of problems, and I think that's why the FDA kind of sat with its caution remarks about it, because there's been a couple of cases where people received FMTs and then later got sick because they picked up some kind of organism from the donor. And that part's always scared me. Supposedly they're screening better, which makes things a little bit easier. But I thought this was interesting because they showed before and after the results right here. They didn't have a big population. It was only 9 samples from donors and 15 from the patients. But they say right here, in patients with C. diff infection, the abundance of this organism is significantly increased in the 2 weeks post fecal transplant. Conclusions, so I thought that was good because they used the significantly increased. FMT increases, here I'm down right down here, the abundance of this organism in patients with recurrent C. diff infections, and this microbial shift remains several months later. So that's good that it stayed within the system. Some of them were very transient, but this hung around. So the baseline abundance in donors or recipients was not associated with future treatment response, although a true predictive capacity cannot be excluded because of the limited sample size. And they're saying that further studies are needed to discern whether it plays an active role.